Good evening and welcome to this special session on cloudizing your IT with everything as a service as part of the 22nd annual CIO Leader Conference. The session is being organized in partnership with HPE. I am Shamanuja Das, Editorial Director, Enterprise Technology Group at 9.9 and your moderator for the session. Let me take a couple of minutes to set the context. What does cloudizing mean? As you can guess, we refer to it as turning everything in IT somehow cloud-like. For many organizations, public cloud is not about technology. It is all about flexibility of investment, shorter deployment cycles, not worrying too much about technology getting obsolete, and not worrying too much about keeping the infrastructure running. What if all these benefits of cloud could be availed without going to a public cloud? Why there are enough regions, and we'll all listen about that from the CIOs. That is what we roughly call cloudization. Hybrid is a way of life for many. All this cloudization, what we're referring to, is basically aimed at making the on-premise part a little less worrisome and more convenient. That is probably what our partner HPE calls everything as a service. Without taking any more time, let's get into the discussion. Let me start by introducing the panel. We have with us Mr. Mrinal Chakraborty, CIO DTDC, Ms. Niti Wahi, Group Chief Information and Digital Officer, Sterlite Power, Mr. Pratap Vadjoshi, CIO, Mercedes-Benz India, and Mr. Punish Lamba, Group Chief Information Officer, Shahi Exports, is likely to join. From HP India, we have Ms. Nidhi Pandey, Chief Technology Officer, Industry Verticals. Let's start with a basic intro to the topic by Ms. Pandey, and then we can go with some questions and get into some open discussion after.
Thanks, Shamanuja. Thanks for such a warm welcome, and welcome all esteemed panelists. Thanks, Shamanuja, for giving me an opportunity for giving a bit of a overview of what do we actually mean by cloudifying the IT estate. What is hybrid cloud? What are we talking about? So taking a step back, let's really talk about what are we seeing is our present reality. What we see right now are more momentous, hyper-personalized and engaged interactions. That is what is happening slowly. The present reality is completely getting digitalized in terms of how we interact with the technology, how we consume all services, be it citizen services or looking at other utility services that we consume. It could be anywhere from metering utilities like gas, electricity, or it could be something as ubiquitous as telecom. So what is happening there? If we start looking at it, these interactions, the demands from the users or the consumers like us, it's transitioning more and more towards something that is gearing towards a hyper-personalized world. Now, what does that mean? It's basically, having an in-time profiling of the customer and talking about personalizing it for that whosoever is the user. It could be a customer, it could be an internal user. So what are the things that are really important when we start looking at these hyper-personalized and engaged demands that we are having on interactions? We are looking at speed and agility, which is becoming of utmost important. It was not that it was never important, but if it was important yesterday, it's even more important today in the current context. Then we're looking at multi-tiered architectural landscape, where we're looking at apps that are residing just anywhere. When I talk multi-tiered architectural landscape, let's start visualizing them as layers. The tiers are more like layers. So something that is near to far from the app consumer perspective, as near to the app consumer, as far from the app consumer. So there's a multi-tiered architectural landscape that we are seeing that is also becoming more and more important and significant to look at. We are also looking at that apps now reside just anywhere. Like I said, they just reside anywhere. It could be a co-location space, it could be a data center, it could be cloud, it could also be edge, the new buzzword that we keep hearing about. Now, what does happen in these when we start looking at, pre-pandemic? Of course, these days, none of the conversations goes without a reference to the pandemic, as we're still grappling and coming out of it. Globally, each geography is having its own challenges. What we start looking at is there has never been a far greater focus on cloud adoption. The new age apps that we had built over the last couple of years, they've already been cloud native. They did not have that kind of a problem or challenges that we were seeing in terms of cloud adoption as the legacy estate we start looking at. The large scale packages and COTS that we call legacy in almost varied discussions that we hear, they comprise almost 70% of the enterprise state. And whatever we may say, they're still somewhere residing in our data centers. So it's still not cloud native. A large part of it is as legacy as it can get. And if we start talking to the new age developers and all, they would really look at the architecture and would be shocked at the core. But that was the need at that point of time. These applications weren't designed for a completely digital intensive world, if I may say, a complete digital economy. They were not really built for that. Now, from us on the HP perspective, what we feel is apps, data, and IT, we're going to see them everywhere. And they're going to be more driven by open source. They're going to be more cloud native. So what we're seeing is we would see more and more distributed cloud kind of an environment there. And that's where really got the statement that I made a couple of seconds ago around colos, data centers, cloud, edge, everywhere, the apps being there. That becomes relevant. That we start looking at, cloud as not public, private, or something. It is basically a cloud that's going to be en masse. It's going to encompass everything that we have on our on-premises infrastructure, environment, estate, whatever we may want to call it. Public cloud, wherever we may be hosting our application workloads, or it could be, any kind of a SaaS provider where we generally consuming the service. So what we look at in terms of hybrid cloud is that today, if we start looking at this whole atmosphere and the environment, the way it is changing, the way the digitalization is at the forefront. In fact, quite a few industries which had planned or factored in the whole digitalization piece had to bring it ahead. They had to just do it right now because of the pandemic. So when we start looking at these processes, we start looking at 70% of the applications still being on-prem and cloud native, a mix of cloud native where we're consuming the public cloud services or we're consuming a SaaS kind of a provider. We are already hybrid cloud. We may not be unified in the hybrid cloud way, but most of the enterprises are consuming services when we start looking at the entire portfolio as a hybrid cloud. So what we look at from our perspective is that it's more like a 4-step process that we consider when we look at where to get. First, we start looking at what is going to be my mixed strategy. What workloads would I take to the cloud? What are going to stay on-prem? What is the right mixed strategy going to be? And that's where we provide an unbiased partnership to all the enterprises to spin their journeys on a hybrid cloud journey. So that's the first step we look at, that having that strategy right is one of the primary tasks that is accomplished. Then we look at the second step in the process that we look at now. We spoke of agility, we spoke of speed and agility, and that it has become more and more relevant now, more significant now. Then we look at platforms. How do you deploy modern agile platforms? So that's where the software-defined composable infrastructure helps. This defines a consistent strategy across legacy and next-gen apps. So the cloud native and the 70% that are residing as complete legacy, we try to bring them together in a cloud, cloud-like experience together for both kind of workloads. The soft defined, which is where we have software defined, rack optimized, HP Proliant and composable infrastructure, HP Synergy platforms, which support a host of our IPs as well as our leading partner solutions like VMware Cloud Foundation and Microsoft Azure Stack HCI. So it looks at spreading a complete hybrid cloud where there is room for faster innovation, consistent operations at a reduced cost. And so HP, as primarily coming from the infrastructure mindset, we have spun our entire investments in such a way to help the enterprises to actually pivot to this hybrid cloud journey and make the dream come for the software defined data centers, if you like to call it, the SDCC. That's where we have IPs around HP OneView, which looks at automated infra provisioning and integrate the ecosystem around the server. So it looks at bringing everything together, automating, creating a hyper automated environment which can be managed from anywhere. So when we look at these, though essentially the topic is hybrid cloud, there are different kind of flavors and the issues that the enterprises are grappling with, which is DC modernization, platform consolidation, everything as a service or an infrastructure as a service or a hybrid cloud, whatever we're talking about. We have seen significant investments to make this dream come live, partnering with our customers. So we have been investing in those skills to help our customers make those journeys. Then the third point on the 4-step process that we talk about is the term that I'd already thrown in, is everything as a service, which is where we talk about how the GreenLake cloud, how HP has unlocked its entire portfolio on the GreenLake. That cloud that comes to you, it becomes self-serve, pay as you go, scale up and down, and managed by HP and our partners via IT Central. And then once we have this whole piece ready, we have everything, we have decided on the strategy, we have this, deployed these modern agile platforms, we have the right commercial models to consume them as a service. Now, how does it really go into the operational part of it, which is where we bring in the unified ops as a part of our GL offering, which is GreenLake Central. So when we start visualizing at hybrid cloud, just taking the bird's eye view of the 4 steps that I've spoken of, it actually means having a cloud that is like a universal pane across our on-premises and the cloud, public cloud, or it could be SaaS services, or it could be the edge clouds in the near future. So that's what hybrid cloud is going to be in terms of, and while I am not, I try to explain it as as laymanish view as possible. However, the only parting thought that I would like to leave everybody with is, while we keep talking hybrid cloud, that we need to have a hybrid cloud strategy. Enterprises may not have a well-defined hybrid cloud strategy, but most of them are already consumers of hybrid cloud if we start looking at all these services that are being consumed in an enterprise. So hybrid cloud is no longer a fancy frill IT kind of, a modernization kind of a strategy, but it's becoming more and more relevant to business, and it's a need of the hour for business to scale and agile and innovate fast. Over to you, Shanmugam.
Thank you. So let me see, that's like, as you said, a cloud is not a technology, or this private cloud, public cloud. Let's call it a philosophy, which many in business also tell. But before we get into those discussions, I would first like from all the speakers, maybe start with Mr. Chakraborty, is where in your cloud journey are you in the hybrid? What is the equation? And if you can explain, if you can rationalize the decision where you are, so that will give a good grounding for getting into further questions on specific issues.
First of all, good evening, everybody. I think I know it is a Friday afternoon, so I won't take it. I don't want to make it very long. Thanks for 9.9 and HP for inviting us to share some maybe wisdom words than what we did so far. So basically, we're from DTDC. We're a 32 years young organization in India. It's a household name, like Borolin, Bata. DTDC also is a household name. All of you might have touched upon that point. So what fundamentally we do, we pick up a shipment from one location and deliver to other locations, kind of an express distribution. But it's very easy to say, but then that needs a very robust operation platform, which is being backed up by IT. And that's the way it is, that the journey is. So if you ask me during this pandemic, it's not, pandemic has helped and cloud adoptions, but I think most of the organizations had taken a significant cloud journey. Because if you are using something SaaS, like an Office 365 or Google Suite or Salesforce or Freshdesk, Zendesk, or SAP Business for Customer, these are all cloud-based solutions, one or other. So I think cloud was a part and parcel of any corporate journey for last 2.5 to 3 years. Yes, during this pandemic, and especially during this post-pandemic, when in hyperscale growth, many organizations are seeing scale means truly hyperscale. Let me give an example. We used to carry around 400,000 shipments per day. During Rakhi, for 9 days, we carried around 700,000 shipments per day. So it's a nearly 75% jump on a volume. Had cloud not been there, this kind of scaling up or scaling down when you don't need would not have been possible. So hybrid cloud is here to stay. I think those issues on the securities will continue to, like the way we need to learn to live with COVID. I think we need to learn to live with this kind of security espionage. And if the basics are okay, I think fellow CIO seniors will be agreed on that. If the basics are done okay, it is not a very fancy stuff, but if your endpoint is secure, it is beyond antivirus. I do not know if government of India truly bans VPN. Hopefully they will not do it. But if your VPN part is secured, and if we all have a proper security on-prem or an outsourced powerful SOC model, I think, and if we continuously monitor through human beings or through some automated tools, today lots of machine learning and automated tools are available, which continuously sniff your network and would alert us. I think cloud is a journey here to stay. And any organization who is looking at an hyperscale growth, which will come by 22-23 in India, has to come. I think hybrid cloud has to stay. And organizations like HP, VMware, SAPs, Googles of the world, AWS, Azure, all are there to take a journey on that. Yes, security is one concern which we need to be really careful. But how much money we can put behind that? Because the organization many organizations who actually guided security portfolios, they are being hacked. So it's a very tragedy we all CIOs are facing. The people whom we depended on, that they will protect us or they will guide us for protections, they themselves become victim. So I think for a hyperscale growth, hyperscale business anywhere, COVID is here to stay. We need to live with that. I think cloud is the only journey where automation anywhere, business anywhere, customer anywhere we can serve. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me ask the same question to Niti Wahi. So where are you on your hybrid, quote unquote, hybrid cloud journey, and why? Why means why you started late or started early, or why the particular means that you have. So That's what I mean.
So I think the why is also answered by the fact that there may be a point of view, there may be legacy, there may be readiness from a business standpoint. Various things drive that. But I would say, firstly, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to share my thoughts and views here. One of the things that I wanted to start with is, we've been working in this technology industry for a fairly long time. I've been here for about 20 years myself. One of the things that we've seen happening is earlier IT used to strive to drive success. I feel now IT and technology and the tools we have is actually looking to drive business value. So that's a significant change that we've seen from a technology perspective as well, from an enabler to a core business driver, really. With that change happening, I think there's a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of expectation and a lot of onus that comes onto these teams as well in deciding business strategy, let alone technology strategy for that matter. And that's where solutions like cloud, and I'm not going to refer to cloud specifically only in an infrastructure parlance. The way we look at it is we need to think of it as something beyond that. Let's talk of it simply as, with the subject that we started out with saying technology or IT being delivered as a service to our business. Okay. So gone are the days of large investments, long cycle projects and programs for implementations. Gone are the days where business had that much of patience with people like us, to wait for things to come through. Now they want everything in a jiffy. And whether you say it or not, our users are so well educated and so aware, so well read about what's happening in the technology world that you could have a very good, constructive, deep argument with any of the business stakeholders on technology. So when I would look at cloud for my business, I would say, so your first question was, where are you today? So I don't think I could pinpoint us in any specific place, primarily because I'm not thinking of cloud here only as infrastructure, and I don't like to think of it like that. To me, every aspect as a CIO, every aspect of an IT service that I need to give the business, today we look and see whether there's a potential to have it on a cloud model. And we start from areas like end user services. My first and most basic thing is we need to enable our users on the ground. COVID saw a big shift in the way our users are now accustomed to doing business versus what they used to be, right? Acceptance of collaboration tools, acceptance of desktop as a service, acceptance of many such tools and stacks came into play. And there was a joke going around that who's responsible for making the collaboration tools a success? Was it the CIO or the CEO or the CFO, or was it COVID? So I think there's no shame in saying that COVID did help us and helped us significantly. So the first thing that I'd like to say is that my consumers' behavior has undergone such a significant shift that they are ready for next gen, and they have shown how fast they can switch to next gen. So if I were to look at from an end user perspective, our users today are ready for components like desktop as a service, certain other tools coming to them as a service. They're ready for it now. And then the onus comes back on us to say, how fast can we deploy? How fast can we make these accessible? Something's happened. How do we enable our teams on the field? So this is a stack that can really help us ensure continuity and enable our users on the field. The second area I'd like to go to is applications. I'm sure you've all heard of shadow IT. There's a term called shadow IT. We've all seen it. Okay. How did this term come into being in the first place? When applications came and were available on cloud as a service, shadow IT came into being. And I'm not looking at it, I'm not thinking of it or talking of it as something negative here. I'm just trying to say, when my user knows he can enable himself so quickly, even with applications, then why should the user sit and wait for a long cycle to happen for any application deployment? application build and deployment. So to me, when I talk of IT as a service, it's also about the platforms and the applications. But yes, we do need to take decisions around what sits on a public cloud versus what do we take as SaaS versus what do we take as PaaS versus what do we actually need sitting on-prem. And that's where the whole hybrid approach to me comes in. I'd like to say, as CIOs, we shouldn't think of it as only an infrastructure component. So then came the story around the applications. The usage of these applications significantly increased. So we were just a core SAP shop, and then suddenly our 400, 500 users on the field said, why can't, how are we going to make my work easier? I can't be working on apps which work only on on-prem models. And we brought in SaaS. Said, use these. We brought in mobility apps. We built them. We said, use these. We said, okay, we can bring you something even simpler than that. You're used to chat. We'll give you chat. Do business on that. Okay. Then came the era of data. Now, when the applications are available like that, and there is tremendous amount of data getting generated, what do we do with that data? Is there a platform available for us to handle so much data as a service? So honestly, on that front, I don't think we're there yet. We don't have the stack. We don't have the tools which are, I'm not saying available to host. Yes, they are available to host, but the next step of how businesses can use that data to make sense for them, to run business, predictive, reactive, proactive, all of it came in that component. And then tying all of it together, of course, was the infrastructure component and the security component. And Mrinal touched upon it very beautifully and said, what is the right level of investment there? When are we standing at a point where we've done too less or versus we've done too much? So security as a service is available too now. Those tools, those components are available as well. So when we say IT as a service, we're perhaps sitting in an era where the pressure is now double because the speed is many, many fold and the expectations are even more. That's what we have to deliver. So where we are at, we're not very, very, very far out and advanced in our journey as a company. We are working with a very, very conscious push now to move our workloads to cloud. And we've also, so our hybrid strategy, we have some things on-prem, we have some things which, we feel are digital apps. Our entire focus is to enable our field force. And, that's the kind of workload that we're trying to put onto the cloud. So we're still, I would say, in early stages of the journey, because the journey for us is not only about where the platforms are being hosted, but it's also about building the right tech to enable our field force. And that's the reason that we are perhaps not so far out yet. As a business which is not a B2C business, that push for us has come and started much later. But for us, it's also about other things. We manage infrastructure on the field, on the ground. We manage physical infrastructure. So where can we actually use components like IoT, etc., to manage our infrastructure, to maintain it? There again, then the whole data platform and that aspect comes in. The edge aspect comes in. Needing very strong networks across to be able to pull that data. All those requirements come in. So I would say we are still at early stages of our journey, and we have a long room to cover.
Okay, so I'll react to that, and I'll is Mr. Purchasey there, Pratap? I think. Yeah, he's.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah,
sure. So I'll ask you this question. See, when in this conversation also, when I ask this question, see what is coming out of the advantages of cloud is, of course, you don't have time. Okay, so you quicker, flexibility of investment, easy to manage. You are not worrying about all the things that I said in the beginning. Now there are when you talk of and when you talk of hybrid, people usually say yes, there are certain things, there is regulation, there is confidentiality of data and all that. But beyond that, there are cases where maybe say age. She referred to age, and in manufacturing industry, you come from there. In say a plant safety, a lot of video analytics have to be done in real time. Okay, you actually need, something like Edge. Okay. Now, and it is very difficult, and usually plants, knowing where they are, knowing the connectivity in India. So you need to analyze them very close to and take operational decisions. Now, something which probably I'll ask after this to Nidhi also is, see, for those where it is very clearly that a public cloud is not the best thing to go to, can some of these advantages, like flexible investment, your someone else is managing it, all these things, IT, which is on premise but which is delivered as a service, even though it is physically very close to you on premise, quote unquote, because on premise is often used as something. It is in fact to opposite of public cloud. So, but all these advantages public cloud are available, but the technology is sitting there, and there is a very compelling use case for that. So do you see such situations, such models happening?
Yeah, I think you have touched upon very nicely, Samanujan. And I think the manufacturing industry, especially the automobile industries like us, where our journey has started long back, because as Nidhi and my other speaker, Mrinal, he said that they have started their journey recently, or maybe around 2 years, 3 years back. And also this pandemic situation has actually put the fuel into the fire of digitization. Actually, most of the people are actually experiencing this. But our journey has started long back, I would say, because our journey is not started by us. It is our customer, those who are actually driving our journey the way actually they want to. The demographic changes is the vital thing. You see a luxury car being driven by an executive, or at the age of, the age was around 50 plus 50. That was the age. But now if you see, the customer of our brand value is coming down to around 30. So in that case, the demographic change is happening, and the ratio also is now moving towards this age factor. The knowledge they are carrying with them is tremendous. They are ahead of us. It's like they are running ahead of the entire technology part. They demand that this is what actually we want. This is what the features should be available. This is what actually should be there in the availability. The transparency should be there. So these are all driving us very clearly from the customer perspective. But at the same time, you're right that being a core manufacturing segment, we also have to take care of our manufacturing activities. The safety, security, the IP, that part has to be taken care of, because something that is very close to a manufacturer like us, or maybe anybody, it's not only to us, it is like anybody who held closely their IP protocol, and also they see that the technical know-how remains within. So these two factors, and also the security, that is one of the concern we had when actually we are migrating all our IoT devices and integrating the IoT devices to the cloud-based solutions and moving some of the application to the cloud. That's a big concern, of course, that was. Lastly, the latency, which is basically is one of the most important factor for deciding this kind of action for us. You're right. We run the HP nonstop servers for our production systems, which we require, because every minute, every second, we have to have a confirmation going out from an IoT device, from going to the car or going to the IoT device, and then going to the application and getting confirmation. If that doesn't happen, then the movement of our production stops. It doesn't move to the next level, because the automatic line, which actually moving from the back end, from the paint shop or the body shop or even the assembly line, it stops. So these are the factors we have to consider, and we have been actually struggling. In fact, HP is one of our premier partner across the globe, and I run most of my this service-based application, which is basically latency-based applications in most of the HP non-stop servers. But when actually we move to the cloud, we first took a journey of moving to the customer applications, the customer-facing applications, where I don't have to have interaction much with my production kind of thing. The customer directly interacting with the cloud, they want to know about the model, they want to know about the speed, they want the fuel consumption, they wanted to have the transparency of the delivery. That's all, everything is available, and we have moved to the various applications, various applications, SAP DC, SAP, etc. in the very late, in the beginning stage, and the Oracle cloud, Sales Cloud, all this can actually moved into, and we make them that it is available you from anywhere across the globe, anytime you access the information, and you should be moving forward. But when it comes to the service, also is very critical, because our service, like SOS, says my source. In case of any kind of eventuality, a customer is driving down to a remote location and it doesn't have a connectivity, he should have a faint connection, and actually he should be able to give a communication back to my customer care that I am at this place and my life in danger. So this is something, the safety and security of the passenger, that has driven us to go to this kind of cloud services. But in the total gamut, if you see, sales and service is very easy to move to the cloud. But the production activities, what actually we have is our core manufacturing activities that is still on the prem. I have been discussion with various applications, various service providers, whether we can take it as a service, but it is still, we are in a dilemma what to do on that. It is not yet decided, not actually we are coming out of that. Secondly, and more lastly, the shadow IT, which Nidhi touched upon, is also a new concept. It is coming in because many of the applications are being used by my dear customers, my dear end users, without even IT knowledge. They have gone a machine, CNC machine, and then CNC machine has come along with the application, which is fitted with a laptop kind of thing, and they actually connect with their cloud and they get the information. Without knowing that is the real vulnerability they are opening up from there. Even if they are going into public cloud without using my domain sometimes directly, but they are actually putting into their risk into this factor, and they are putting the entire organization to the risk. So these are the topic actually we decided, and still we are debating upon that how actually a manufacturing sector will move from the real prem to real cloud scenario. This is still a debate and discussions are going on. I think we have to reach somewhere sometime, but it is still a distance there. It's my view.
Thank you. So let me come to Nidhi. See, while I have nothing against public cloud, see, because most of the discussions that are happening is around public cloud, the value proposition it provides. But today, kind of thing that he was talking about, low latency. See, earlier also it was being discussed, but now with really compelling, applications in terms of analytics using artificial intelligence and edge, and of course 5G, which is coming, which will kind of probably catalyze that. So this proposition of running something very close to without sending to public cloud is very real, but that is theory. So in ground, do you see something like that where people are going for that and people are demanding that, yes, if we can make payments like the way we pay to public cloud, or you take charge of updating technology, but it should be in my premise very close to my plant or whatever other application it could. Nidhi.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I've been hearing all the panelists in such an insight into from this different perspective, right? From talking about how cloud seems to be a reprieve, provide a reprieve to the demand surge, just moment in time demand surge, how right from our consumers to our business, their technical acumen is rising. And that's also becoming an external driver in looking at technologically bit differently, looking at the large transformation timelines and looking at more opportunities to innovate and fail fast. And then you speaking, you're asking that question around how do we actually look at these when we are looking, talk, is it a reality when we start talking about? So I would like to say that it is an evolving reality, I would rather say, not a reality moment in time. It is realized in some ways and is yet to be realized. As we spoke of a lot of challenges around mission critical applications that they're very latency sensitive, and so there is a lot of transparency needed in terms of the kind of infrastructure that has been deployed. There is a lot of at least on the manufacturing sector, a lot of things have not been opened up, and now are getting opened up. The whole, as they call it, the OTPs, the operation technologies that are opening up. The threat around security is also increasing. And what we see is from, like I made a comment in the intro, is distributed cloud is what we would get to see. So we would truly see edge to cloud, and it is happening in some shape or forms. With IoTs, we see a lot of sensor-driven data being collected and some kind of analytics being drawn. Of course, it's not very moment in time as of now. It's not very real time, but with connectivity world seeing the, it should be called one of the most landmark events in connectivity world. Whenever the 5G comes into full blown, after the trials, it becomes full blown. We would see that near real time word that we used to use probably can be, would become a historical kind of a phrase, because we would be able to do things in real time. And that's when the architectural tiering that I was talking about would become relevant. So we would have somewhere, hyper local edge to a far near edge to far edge to something which is a central cloud. So we would end up seeing that, and insights would be generated at all the level. If we start visualizing this, taking up a manufacturing plant and looking at multiple sites, there are a lot of data that is being generated at that point of time, and which needs to be actioned also there for it to be called real time or for it to be really fruitful. Otherwise, they are more like insights that can probably be used for some kind of an estimation, but not a momentous action can be drawn out of that. When we start looking at that, the whole edge piece falls into place. That what it is, all these sites will probably end up having their own edge cloud, edge cloud, where the entire data is being generated here and is being processed here. Insights are being generated, are being actioned also here. And from there, some kind of aggregate insights, if you're looking at probably how the north region sites are doing, you club them together in a more zonal fashion, and that comes to another edge. And a central cloud, which looks at more enterprise-wide. So there would be plethora of use cases that come and would make that come into reality. And that's why I said it's an evolving reality. So it's something that is happening and that would continue to happen. Just that when we are looking at this whole cloud thing and we are looking at legacy, the issue that is happening with enterprises is because the old applications were not really OLAP and the OLTP, as we like to call them. They were not really designed in that space, in that era. So they failed to really address the consumption of those services in that way. And for those, probably we'll have to start looking at more, consolidating the infrastructure here and creating a composable framework to have a cloud-like experience even for these dated applications that we have. And that's where, HP, the GreenLake offering that I had actually spoken of earlier in the overview, is what HP does. We call it is a cloud that comes to you, a cloud that comes to your door and can be unlocked. And so it brings in that whole flavor of, you don't need to provision for 3 years and then realize that the uptake is happening or not happening. Innovate, fail fast, start small. So even for a hyper local edge cloud kind, start small. Probably start with a hyper local edge cloud and see whether insights need to be taken out on an aggregate level to another tier and process there. And that's how you build that. And that's where the whole edge to cloud strategy, the whole hybrid cloud strategy as is spun, designed, developed, and how it is evolving in the organization would become very, very important. So my only last statement around this would be, this is not something that is a term that is that we are in a research phase. It is more like there are use cases that are being piloted, so, and it is evolving as we are growing. So the whole thing that you're talking about, multi-tiered architecture and the edge to cloud, that's in some shape or form still being realized. So not fully the way it will be, but it is happening right now, with especially the IoT has put the emphasis on it and has made it possible to have that data. The first step was getting that data collected, and that's happened with the the whole world becoming IoT and the whole world getting software driven. When you start looking at a consumer automobile kind of a product which is becoming software driven, you can imagine OTA kind of software updates going and actually adding certain features to your car. It was unimaginable. So these things, if you start looking at it, you are at the far, every update being pushed from the central cloud to something, you are at the end. We would probably end up looking at a distributed cloud where you are being pushed updates from the nearest cloud for it to be actually updated on an OTA basis. So just taking a very random example, hypothetical, this one I heard Pratap's view on the automobile, and consumers with that whole connected car and the drives, self-drive cars, driverless cars, and those kind of things. There are a lot of catchy. I think if you start looking at it, it is more because it's a physical product, it comes in our eyes, but the same shift is happening in all the industries. I'm sure for the other panelists also, they would have seen consumers expecting something else. Maybe for a courier or a logistic, they would probably look, you already have my data. Why can't you just directly show me? Why do you need to, put in tracking number? If I have visited, why is it that I have to do this all over and over again? So we would end up seeing, a different kind of a security problem also, a different kind of an identity
we are
problem
running
also.
out of time, so I have one question general to who wants to take it. Maybe is, see, these we talked of the use cases, the application, what is driving the business. So I'll come to a very, very practical question. So as of now, as CIOs who are managing this, what are your top challenges? Forget about what business is wanting, or maybe if that is a major challenge, and what are the use cases, where it could go, all that is fine. But day to day, you have to deliver, right? So what are the things that is kind of keeping you awake when it comes to cloud, hybrid cloud in general? Maybe.
So shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please. Go.
Yeah, I think what Nidhi said, it's very pertinent to us that a logistics player actually don't get so much of data. Who gets data of yours, Nidhi? It is the e-commerce companies gets your data. Because in 92% cases, you are the buyer and you are the only consumer. So you not only put a right address, you will also tell opposite this school, next to the red lamppost, you will give a landmark to us. But exactly when I go to, say, Mr. Pratap, say we deal with, say, Mercedes-Benz, we're a courier company of theirs. If I ask them, they said, please share your dealer's details so that I can deliver rightfully and quickly. Then the corporate governance comes. B2B business, both us, FedEx, DHL, TNT, UPS, we can't even ask for your data. Like say from next year, 31st of March of 2022, BFSI will not give me any data. But they expect, when Nidhi is expecting a credit debit card through DTDC, she should get an SMS alert or she should get a WhatsApp alert. Dear bank, dear BFSI, if you don't give me data, I cannot produce data, right? It will be illegal for me to produce anybody's data. Some people, what they do, since it's an open audience, they take photo of the envelope, which is illegal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are in a very difficult situation. First of all, we need to get data. Then what we do, we generally try to tell customer, okay, dear sir, you don't give me data. Use our APIs. At least consume our APIs. Many companies came forward, many organizations, even who has head offices in Europe, they're generally very strict on their norms. Okay, they also say that yes, now we're connecting with SAP, we're connecting with Oracle Financials, okay, through our API tools, so that labels are generated at your factory, labels are generated before you hand over to a courier boy, so that I don't mess up with your parcel. And it is expecting a small gift from his or her counterpart. Data is safe, secured, labeled, and you are well informed. I think I just take 2 minutes of your time to explain
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
But definitely, cloud is playing a very critical role, because this kind of agility, as rightly Mr. Pratap said and Niti also said, you cannot do a classical corporate IT kind of governance. You have to break that. For breaking that, keeping whatever security concerns in mind, but you have to go to cloud, use some SaaS model, use some quick software, and make customer happy.
No, that is a very, very valid point. Any other challenge that you would like to as he said, very business related or even IT management challenges. So before we
I will touch upon on this.
Yeah.
What Mr. Mrinal says is very right. I'll just answer his topic. I think, Mr. Mrinal, you have touched upon the right chord, and that is what actually been discussed now in the level of the CII also. The collaborative model across the value chain has to be established. It is not only the OEM like us, or not the service provider like you, or somebody else like somebody like Nidhi is doing, but I think the entire supply chain, from the value chain, I'll say, not supply chain, the value chain, starting from even the forecasting a customer base till the end of manufacturing has to be there. Okay, so this is one point. What the challenges I am facing is basically managing the SLA is one of the biggest topic and challenges for the cloud services. I will say in one nutshell, that is what actually driving all of us, probably whosoever has gone for a cloud services, is now when actually you discuss in the beginning, it is all rosy and it is very good. Everything is given like all 5 parameter out of 5 is 5. But when actually you good executions, managing the SLA is a big challenge. And that is even the company like AWS or Azure, I'm facing the challenge. This is one of the biggest challenge I think CIOs are facing.
I think yes, CEO brought this up earlier also, very, very close to your heart. Yeah. So you Niti, so probably you could add and then you will finish.
Look, I think the challenge we are facing is a little different. Unlike some of the other consumer businesses, end tech is a more newer concept. That's picking up now, and that's why when I started, I said my goal is really to how do I convert a business which runs on building infrastructure, a lot of construction kind of work. How do I make it tech driven, really, and with an end goal to say I need to reduce cost and time variances in whatever projects we do, and these are government projects, etc., that we're working on. So our goal really is using all of what we spoke about. When I started out, I said it's not about technology success anymore; it's about business value creation. So the goal is so the problem statement that I'm rather dealing with is how do I get my guys on the field to be able to completely revolutionize. I won't say digitize. I'll say revolutionize the way this industry is working in terms of So power has a generation, it has a distribution, and then has a transmission which comes only in between, connecting the two. So using the stack that we spoke about, IoT, edge, and 5G coming on, etc. What can I do with that data? The power related data that's flowing across, SCADA systems being put in, etc. So our problem is how do we marry IT and OT actually? And how do we make sense of IT and OT to deliver business value? That's the challenge for us.
Yeah, that has come out in many discussion on many topics. Okay, I think Nidhi has been part of some of those discussions earlier with has come as a major challenge. And today also we had something. I was trying my best to focus on data, but still 2-3 manufacturing CIOs brought this up. It is a very, very pressing challenge, no doubt about that. We have come to an end. We are so just quickly, I'll take a minute to summarize. So we talked about where we stand in hybrid cloud why, and what are the challenges. And basically one thing, one common thread that came, and it is, today it looks very natural, but maybe when 6-7 years back I was talking to CIOs, 80% of the conversation would be about technology. You would get into this SAP. Now I pushed you, but still it was like 70 to 80% of the discussion, or maybe 90%, was very business specific challenges. That one major change, forget about what technology has done, major change that CIOs now have actually, which they've been talking for 10 years, but now actually think of, business challenge as a challenge. Rest they think we can manage. So we have done that for years, we can manage. So that's something, it is not surprising. It is now, we are listening to that in many conversations. But it is very, let me say, very reassuring that what was till now only talked about, we have kind of reached. And then there are, people like Nidhi who would offer you more and more so that you can go and proactively do those, business, create those business values, and the cycle will go on. With that, I would like to thank all the panelists, and it was a very nice discussion. And we had got enough time because today I've done 2 more such roundtables with 10, 12 CIOs each, which was very difficult to, get something.
Yeah.
So you have been part of some of those discussions, but very good. We got a very nice perspective, and thank you once again, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.